apple without planting the seed. You can't do it. We have to let God transform our hearts and our minds, and then we can transform our behaviors, our attitudes. But just going out, it's like somebody said, I ain't gonna cuss no more. They do pretty good. They ain't gonna cuss. They do pretty good until they wake up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom and stuff their toes. Hit the finger with a hammer. All of a sudden, ain't cussing, ain't you know what on their mind. Because the pain has snatched everything in them out. It has caused the guard to drop. And now the raw you come out. When people say, you know, I only cuss because you made me mad. No, you only cuss because it was in you. If it ain't in you, it can't come out. So we gotta work on getting it out. So then at least you can Christian cuss. Y'all know what Christian cuss is? It's saying stuff like, dang it. Everybody know what you wanted to say. That's Christian cussing. We all know what you want. Shoot! We know what you meant. we know exactly what you wanted to say. But so that's what I call Christian cussing. All right. When our hearts are no longer under the influence of the king, our behavior is in direct opposition to the king. We do the exact opposite. This man had the same scenario in his life that the king had, and he did the exact opposite. So we can look at our lives and say, when we have the same scenarios that we see that Jesus has, what do we do? Do we stand up for the widow and the orphan like he did? What do I do when somebody either physically or emotionally slap me? Do I turn the other cheek, or do I fight back? I destroy them, go for the juggler. What do I do? How do I bear the burden of the weak, or put my burdens on the weak? What do I do with my life when I'm in the same scenario, the same situation, in principle, that Jesus is in? How do I act? What do I do with me? See, because if I'm under his influence, if I'm following him, then I grow and become closer and start emulating him more in my day-to-day. If I appreciate knowing him, but I'm under the influence of somebody else, then I usually, here's a good example. I went to a men's retreat, and Brother Dave Henson was there. There was 5 or 6 pastors sitting at the table. Dave Henson served all of us. He got water, he got food, he served every one of us. But when it was time to respond, to leave, to go, he was with me. Because he was connected to me. It's because I was at the table that he served everybody else. Now I'm saying that because I was his pastor. Put that, you got Christ, your job, your family, your health, your cousins, whoever's important to you. Why do you do what you do? Do you serve your family because Christ is at the table? Or because your family has taken authority position over Christ? Do you go to your job and do your best work on your job because Christ is at the table? Or do you do your best work at the job because you want a good reputation, you want to make more money, why do you serve the things in your life that you serve? See, because if we remain under the influence of Christ, then it will impact everything else, but everything else we do will be because of him and to his glory. that's the point that I'm trying to make here. So this servant left the influence of the king, and when he did, he was in direct opposition, did the exact opposite that the king did and would have done. You with me?
Yes. I'm sitting here thinking what you're saying, Pastor, and what comes in my mind right now is like, you can take a person out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the person. So, like, I'm just going to say me, you could take me out of the world and back into Christ, but I still got that world in me deep down, and then it comes out every now and then. So, I guess,
What a soul.
So, it's like, how do you stay out? I mean, I know you can repent, when you sit back, you repent, but your DNA is so rooted with evil. Mm-hmm. It's always going to keep coming back out.
Oh, well, no.
No?
The old nature is evil, broken, separate from God.
Right.
When we're born again, we're born new. We're born with a new nature, but that nature has to grow. So that means I have to feed that nature. Now, the old nature is going to try to steal the food. It's like weeds. It's like weeds in a field. When you feed the plants, the weed try to eat up the nutrient, so the plant suffers and won't grow. So you got to get the weeds out.
Okay.
So what you have to do is you feed that new nature, and as the weeds show up, you weed them out. In other words, you start resisting and emulating Christ. I'm going to be Christ. Look, right now, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to trust God, but this one thing I know, I'm going to trust Him. I'm going to do His will. Right now, God, I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know if my bills are going to get paid. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to learn your voice. I'm going to follow after you. And when you do that and start resisting the enemy, the Bible says he'll flee. When you start resisting the evil in your life or the old nature and feeding the new, the balance of power shifts. Now, the voice of the evil or the fallen nature may never go away, but it can be very faint.
Okay.
Yes.
I tell this as an example. Over the years, I've told it. My father could call me 3 different ways. Clifford, come here. Clifford, come here. Clifford, come here. And depending on how I heard him in the situation, it all meant different things. It meant, okay, he wants me to come. My father was paralyzed. He wants me to come because he needs me right now, so I go. Or I'm in trouble. There's an issue that he wants to deal with me. Or there's just, when you get a chance, son, come here, I want to see you. Those things happen. I could tell from his voice which one it was most of the time. My father's going to be with the Lord now, I don't know, 20 years almost. Over 20 years. I still hear his voice. I still hear him. I'm thinking about my car. What would you do? Check this. Look at that. So I still hear, he's gone 20 years, but I still hear it. Why? Because the balance of power shifted. It was a relationship that I developed with him where now I know his voice. And so even when he is not physically present, there is still an influence that can speak. And that's how it goes when the enemy want us to think that our old nature is always going to be in charge. The fact is, when we got saved, the old nature lost authority. That our new nature now is in charge. And when we start allowing that new nature to grow and start hearing the voice and being obedient against our will. Y'all hear what I said, right? Obedient against our will. In other words, your will gonna kick his heels up and gonna say, that don't make sense. I don't want to do it. They don't deserve that. Your will is gonna kick its heels up. And you have to be obedient against your wills. God, I'm gonna trust your will and do it your way. When we start doing that, we grow spiritual muscles. We become more spiritually in tune to what God is saying. And we can follow him because we hear him and understand him better. So no, there is hood in us. There is fallen nature in us. There's devilishness in all of us. But also in us is the throne of the living God, the presence of the Holy Spirit, the love of God, the power of God. And if we follow him, guess what? And the Christ in the wilderness proves it. Because there was two voices. God's voice had planted principle in Christ. Satan's voice was real and in his face. But Christ went with the principle that God had planted in him, that silenced the voice that was in his face. We can do the same. That's why you get with God, get his word, so that the principles of God, the voice of God, is so rooted in you that when life hits you in the face, you can resist it and go with what you know truth is. Okay? All right. So, let's go to verse 31.
I thought we were going to go on 30.
I just finished.
I'm just joking.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, I did it. Okay. He had the man thrown into prison. Poor fellow. But now look. Other folk, they be praying, but they don't always, sometimes they be telling on you in prayer. It said, when the other servants saw what had happened was they were greatly distressed and went and told their master everything that happened. Lord, you see what, look, you can't let him go. They went and told. Then the master called the servant in. You wicked servant, he said. I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? Jesus in the model prayer, you don't have to go there. It's in Matthew 6:12. You ain't got to go. In the model prayer, Jesus taught us to pray, forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors, or forgive our debtors. We get to set that standard. We're saying, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Well, that prayer was answered in the life of this servant. See, because here he didn't forgive others. So what happens is the king issues a servant recall. There is a malfunction in that servant, and he recalls him. Come back and see me. And he issued the recall based on the servant's mistreatment of another. The way that he knew that there was a malfunction in the servant is the way the servant treated others. It wasn't in the way the servant spoke to the king. It wasn't in the way the servant worshiped the king. It wasn't in the way that the servant served the king. The misstep, the break, the thing that was messed up was made evident in how the servant served or treated others. So we can't say I love the Lord and mistreat everybody else. We can't say, me and the man upstairs, we okay, and we turn our back on other folk. The way we treat other people will demonstrate if we are true servants of the king or not. Okay? You ain't got to go there, but you can write it down. Proverbs 28:27. Proverbs 28:27. It says, he who gives to the poor will lack nothing, but he who closes his eyes to them receives many curses. The one who blesses the powerless will always have enough. But the one who hears the powerless, the least of these, to see other people in need and close their eyes, don't do what they can do to help, to bless, to lift, they will be stricken with many curses. That's why when you're all about you you have to always be about you. You got me? When you're all about you, you have to always be about you. Because when you're all about you, there's so many things going wrong, so much stuff breaking, so many curses that you're under that you're forced to always look at your stuff. When I'm all about me, stuff is always going to be falling, breaking, relations messing up, and cars everything going to mess up. Because if I'm all about me, I got to always be about me. Because that's how it works. There's curses. But when I start blessing other folk, see, that's one of the principles of tithing that people don't get. See, they think tithing is about money, bring your money into the church. No! God says, bring your tithe to the storehouse, that there might be meat in my house. In other words, so that my house can be a blessing to those who can't eat otherwise. That my house can take care of those who are struggling, those who are in need. So when you bring the tithe, then what happens is the poor and those who are sick or in jail, they get blessed. And you get blessed in the process. But by leaving the tithe in your bank account, you rob God, you turn a blind eye to those in need, and the Bible's under what? Many curses. But people say, and it's not just about tithing, it's how we live our lives. It's how this servant mistreated the other servant who was poor. You just been made it. You just did to you 60 million work days of salary. And you turn and mistreat someone for 90 days, for 100 days of a salary. Because of the heart. So when we do that, we rob ourselves. We as the Bible said, cut a hole in our pocket. Our cisterns are run empty because they're broken. We damage ourselves by being focused on ourselves. It just happened. Okay? So the king called the servant wicked, evil. You wicked, you evil servant. That's what he called him. Because he refused to forgive as he had been forgiven. His wickedness, his evil, was he refused to love others as he himself has been loved. He refused to feed others as he has been fed. He refused to be a blessing as he himself had been blessed. You evil, wicked servant. Now, look at the king. The king here holds himself up as the standard. God is our standard. Christ is our standard. He came and lived this life. He could have been born, died the first day, and paid for our sins. It could have happened. He could have been born, Herod could have came in, sent the men, and they could have slew him as a baby, and God could have said, okay, he was a perfect sacrifice. Now he could have done it. But instead he lived. Why? Because his life shows us how to live. Christ shows us how to live. So the king holds himself before this servant as the standard. He says, I showed you mercy. Shouldn't you have done the same thing? Shouldn't you have done what I did? Shouldn't you follow me? If I showed you mercy, couldn't you figure out that was the right thing to do? Shouldn't you have done what I did? If God saved you, restored you, redeemed you, gave you another chance, guess what? Just maybe the right thing to do is to help someone else, give them another chance. But look here. Look what happens. When you're wicked, when you mistreat others, when you don't extend the grace and love to others that God extends to you, you reach out and pull back to yourself the debt that God had released. Verse 34. In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother and from your heart. Father, forgive us as we forgive others. If I mistreat others, the pain, the stuff that God has delivered me from, I will meet again. Mm-hmm. You have to, if you don't, just read the text. It's right there. It's there. You see it, right? It says so. He got thrown in jail. He got thrown in jail until he can pay back. So guess what? He walked with that probably for the rest of his life because it was more debt than what he could pay. So because I mistreat others, I impact my life in a negative way for the rest of my life.
Wow. Wow.
Because I don't allow the love, the grace of God. I don't try to serve God. I don't walk under the influence of God. I damage me for the rest of me. My very intent of blessing me turns out to be a curse of me because I refuse to follow God and submit to God. Yep, that's what it says, right? So our actions display our heart's character. We mess up. Matthew chapter 7, verse 11 and 12. You can write it down. Matthew chapter 7, verses 11 and 12. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. In everything. In everything. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. If your rent was behind and you came to the church looking for help, would you have wanted people to pay their tithes so something would be there to help you? If you were hungry and you came to the church looking for a helping hand or some food from the pantry, would you have wanted the folk to have been faithful so there'll be something there for you? See, it's not just when we think about it, it's how we live. It's a lifestyle. So we do for others always what we want done for us. That's how we live. Our liberation, our freedom depends on our willingness to love others as God has loved us. Our freedom, our liberation depends on our ability to love, or our willingness to love others as God has loved us. Here's the punchline, the sum total of all I said tonight, and I'm done. This servant didn't suffer in the end because of the debt he owed. He suffered because of his unwillingness to emulate the king. He didn't suffer because he owed him. He suffered because he refused to be like the king. We don't suffer because we owe a great debt. Christ paid that. Our suffering comes because we refuse to live life as Jesus did. We refuse to follow Christ. That's why we suffer. Not because we did so much wrong. It's just we refuse to follow the one who is right. Questions? Concerns? Thoughts?
I have a thought.
Yes, sir.
Just one. I had a student, we're back in school. What's going on in the election? Young African American. He felt he needed to leave the room because of some things that they were saying to him, and he came to my office. And I'm not sure if I told him the right thing. I said, I think you're mature. You showed a lot of character and heart. But then I talked about Michelle Obama's when they go low, we go high. And then I think a part of myself got involved where I said, why do we always have to take the high road? you know, you have a voice, and maybe I don't know if I gave him the right way or how he should handle that next time. I said you just can't go cursing people out or fighting people, but you don't always have to sit there and take the abuse. But I just was wondering, you know, when people say things to us, you know, like you were saying, how do we react when emotionally we're insulted or mentally insulted?
Okay. Let me ask you. Here we go. Can I make it about you? My answer?
Yeah.
Okay. It's safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Your mother, your grandmother happen to be out, and you're walking up the street or to the mall or whatever it is, and one of your boys come over to you, and he wants to, you know, get in your face, and he's cussing at you, right? You got your mother and your grandmother there who you respect and love and honor. You're not afraid of him. You're not scared of him. But do you cuss him and just go in and call him all kinds of filth? And do you do that with your mother and your grandmother right there?